My grandfather, Samuel Wallace Edwards Sr., grew up on the Oaks Farm in Isle of Wight County. They had a smokehouse. His mother, from what I understand, taught him how to cure hams on the farm. And it was obviously a learned technique that she learned from someone back who knows how far, but I just know that part of the history from the late 1800s to the early 1900s where he learned. And then he married a lady who was Anita Jester, and Captain Jester started the ferries between Surrey and Jamestown. My grandfather, who learned how to cure hams on the farm, started serving ham sandwiches on the ferry from hams that he cured. And one thing led to another. Then we started Edwards Smokehouse in Surrey in 1926. He ran it, retired I'd say in the early 70s. Dad was in the business. When you have a family business, you're basically working in the family business from the day you can pick up anything, really. So he worked in it for his entire career. I went away to school, came back, and to be honest with you, I wasn't going to do that. I was going to go somewhere else, but the economy in 1978 was horrible, and I said, well, I'll hang around for a couple of years, and turned into a complete career. Of course, I learned how to cure hams, bacon, sausage from my grandfather and father, who would take me through the different rooms that we had for curing meat and would teach me the intricacies of curing meat. And it's not just, you do A, B, C, and you're gonna get D. You have to use your sense of touch, smell, sight to tweak it during that process. I think back in my grandfather's day and my dad's day, you took whatever the farms had in this area, and over the course of time, pork, fresh pork especially, changed a lot from what I call the older breeds, pre-industrial pork, to what was developed in the 80s and 90s, which the focus was the other white meat. How do we get it super lean, healthier? How can we grow all the pigs the same size so we're more efficient, we can keep our costs down? But on the downside, that had, in my opinion, a detrimental effect to the dry cured ham business, because that needs marbling. It needs that pork that was being raised back in the pre-industrial pork age. So there were certain specific breeds that we like, Berkshires, Red Wattles, Tamworths, that had a marbling or fat content through the pork itself. And we also found within those breeds there were certain breeds and farms that produced better, like Berkshires, for instance. So we kind of honed in on those farmers to raise that pork for us. Then we started messing around with something that this area was known for years ago, which was they were peanut-fed hogs. But as peanut farmers got more efficient at harvesting, there were hardly any peanuts left in the fields, so they didn't send the pigs out to glean the fields after harvest. So what we did was we messed around for about 4 or 5 years trying to figure out what is the best combination of peanuts, corn, and wheat for the hogs. That's the goal with the product we were trying to produce. A little bit better here, a little bit better there. By the time you finish with it, you've got layers of better flavored pork. To me, it was getting more and more back to what pork tasted like and cured meat tasted like when I was a kid. Obviously, the country ham industry is shrinking. It's odd for me to think of that because Spanish and Italian hams, millions of them being imported into this country. So what happened? Why is that? And I think part of it is marketing. There's virtually no difference in what they're doing and what we're doing, but they're getting this huge price per pound. And if the country ham industry, in my opinion, had focused on that, they would have been making enough profit to stay in business. But I think in today's world, that industry went away because it was who could make it the cheapest and sell it for the least amount of money. Eventually it got to the point where it wasn't profitable. Before our fire in 2016, people began to realize that we can make a ham comparable to, if not better than, the imported product. Iberico hams were selling for $5,000 a piece, and I was thrilled to get $350, and which in comparison to a country ham is crazy high. I mean, country hams, in the local grocery stores was selling for as low as 99 cents a pound. And when they cost you 65 cents a pound fresh, they shrink 25%. That doesn't leave but pennies left for gross margin and net profit. I had taken some product into Europe just so they could try it, and it was a big table full of, 50, 60 plates, different kinds of different companies' hams, and we came out right in the top tier of 1 or 2 in that taste testing, so I was pretty proud about that. So I felt like we could compete on the world-class level. My dad and grandfather, looking at all of that develop, everything went full circle back to the way pigs used to be raised and fed and treated during their era. And I could always tell when I went to a farm, the farmers that were treating their animals humanely, because the pigs would run to them. They see that truck, they would run to that truck or that person. Some of the farms I would go to, the pigs would run the other direction. And then you hang around long enough, you begin to realize, all right, this guy, he's not treating his animals humanely. Everything from nose rings, they put nose rings in a pig to keep them from rooting because it would tear the fields up. Well, if you're in the pig business and you're raising them on the ground, it's gonna happen. That is soothing to a pig. It's part of their thing that they got to get out there and root and they feel happy. But I can tell you at the end of the day, the flavor of the product was better. In Europe, when they salt hams, they reuse the salt. I mean, it's much more environmentally friendly, whereas we used to have to, every batch that we did, trail loads, we gave it to the highway department to put on the roads. Whereas in Europe, they're allowed to use the salt over and over again. Not only that, but when they salt them, the whole floor is covered in salt. They walk in, stack the hams, they're walking on the salt that they're putting the hams on. USDA would have a fit. It would never happen. Why there's a demise in the country ham industry, there are regulations, I think, that have made making any kind of dry cured meat in this country so hard and so difficult. The USDA is all about trying to get one rule for hams, and there should be more cubbies of regulations to deal with this product versus another product. But that's not how it works. It's one of my first memories. My grandfather used to slaughter back in the 30s through till 62. The farmers would bring the hogs in and they put on a scale. It was like a pin with a scale in it. They could get maybe 10 hogs on the scale at one time. And my cousin and I would be on the fence around this scale with these canvas straps that you would smack the hogs when they weighed them. You'd help get them in, you'd help get them out. I was short enough that I could walk underneath all these carcasses of pigs. Oh, you'd walk into an aging room. I can remember my grandfather saying, now you smell that, what does that smell like to you? If you were doing it right, besides hickory smoke, it was almost an apple-y sweet smell to the room. He said, that's the way it's supposed to smell. In this country, the central ham capital of the world, it's been called that for 100 years, so I'm honored. I know my grandfather would be growing up in Isle of Wight, and to think that this is being recorded in this museum would mean a lot to him.